Here I am again. And this time we're talking about, I took a little break, got some water. This time we're talking about spiritually formed to fall. So as a segue from talking about the importance of resilience and spiritual formation, learning to fall, I'm actually now talking about certain practices that we could have that we're spiritually formed to fall. And so as I think about practices, I want to think about the first thing you learned in this resilience of how to fall and get back up again, right? I love get back up again, just get back up again with the least amount of pain and harm done to you. So one of the first things in break falling, as I mentioned previously, is that you want to be able to protect what is most important and vital. So for a lot in break fall physically, it is our head. Got that brain and everything, so you want to keep it from really hitting the mat with such a ferocity that it causes damage. So one thing I want to ask you, when thinking about practices around resilience, in particular, the falls in our life, I would like you to think about what is vital to you. What is vital to you and how can you protect it? How can you hold it up? Keep it and guard it so it has the least amount of impact. As I mentioned before, one of the things for me, and so that's a practice, let me just say that, but one of the things for me was that I wanted to protect my belief in a God, my belief in God. So I work hard in the difficulties of life to hold and maintain a relationship with the divine. And I want to also ask you to think about what is vital to you in the falls? What is vital to you in your spiritual life? What do you want to hold on to that feels vital? And I would also entertain and think about your well-being as being on there, your sense of knowing you're loved and how do you recapture it and hold on to that. So I would like a practice to be, what is vital in the difficulties and the hardships of life that you want to hold and value because they're critical and important. So as for me, lately, this has been something in my recent years, I've thought about my own sense of well-being, that I would try and do less and less things in the falls of life that are deleterious to my spiritual well-being, that I would listen to myself better. So what is it to develop practices around hearing yourself? And so probably the initial practice in this is what is vital that you maintain or you recapture in the difficulties and falls of this life. Second, I want to talk about the practice of breathing deeply. I'm sure you've heard it over and over again. Octavia Raim has a poem, and one of her passages, just breathe. So to breathe and oddly enough, to relax in certain ways in the fall, to learn to relax in the falling. Now, this is counterintuitive. You would think that when you fall, the first thing you want to do is tense up, and that's your natural reaction. So what is it to train your spirit to be like as my grandmother would say, when things got really hard, she would always say that she knew God had never failed her yet, and God wasn't beginning now. So what is it to breathe and relax into the fall? No, God has not failed me. Not failed me yet, and he's not going to do it today. And so, got it. And she's not going to do it today. He or she's not going to do it, or they are not going to do it today. So what is it to truly sit into the fact that you are held by a God who's also helping to break your fall? I want to say that in relaxing and letting go, you have to train yourself, if possible, and invite you to do that. Maybe you already do. It's almost a natural response when things get really hard and difficult to tense up. And actually that makes the impact harder on the body and on the soul. I remember my therapist saying to me, not very long ago, It was so much loss that I have experienced lately, losing my grandmother, my auntie, and my uncle all in this last year. And our beloved dog. I've known so much loss. And I was just struggling where to go next, how to move in my next steps in my life. And she says, Fatimah, and I was just questioning all about myself. She goes, you've been in places like this before. You've been here before. Maybe this looks different and this is a different era, but you know your spirit still thrives and moves towards goodness and light. So a part of it, of our spiritual practice, is also knowing and believing in your God-given power. Is allowing yourself to relax or breathe into your God-given power. And allowing that to take some of the impact and ease the fall. So first, I would like you to think about some of the practices I've named so far. Is one, in doing resilience and helping to be spiritually formed around the fall. Is one, what is vital? What is vital? What do you want to hold on to in beauty? Because it is something you want to protect when difficult times arise. Second, thinking of how you breathe and you relax, even in the midst of tense situations where the natural spiritual response or even physical response is to tense up. How do you begin to intentionally teach yourself to breathe, for your soul to sort of lean in to that fall so it has least amount of impact, and breathe and relax to the point that you can make intentional decisions and be intentional about how the fall is happening. And I want to say that for the most part, when we're doing these practices, another practice I absolutely love, and I'm just right now, I wrote down these two, but there's one third one I want to, a practice in resilience. And that's the practice of learning no, being intentional with no's, and the intentional with your yeses. Sometimes when it's very difficult and we're learning to fall, and we're learning, and also we're becoming more apt at falling, we realize that sometimes in the midst of fall and when we're falling, certain things can't be done and we just can't do it all. What is to recognize in difficult times and discern and be very, very careful with our yeses, and to move in no's if we cannot. I am falling, I am break falling right now. And part of that is knowing what I can and cannot do and when I'm overstretched. So that way the fall has less impact to do harm. It's an art to learn to say no in a million different ways and to say yes, that your yeses are guarded and protected and very intentional in difficult and hard times. What it is to do a spiritual inventory of all that you're doing and realizing you're in the midst of a fall or you're being thrown. What needs to go, what you need to let go so you can fall into it with more ease. What do you need to let go and what do you need to embrace? And how a spiritual inventory of all that you're taking on and doing and moving with the Holy Spirit in that would allow you what you need to put on the altar, anoint, and let go, and what you put on the altar to receive and do in ways that will help ease and move in your breakfall. I want to thank you for spending time with me this Good Friday morning. The light and the sun has risen. The light's coming into my office. So I'll probably even have a different look from a little bit more light, even put on my glasses so I can see. But before I leave you, I want to leave you with a prayer and a blessing. May you practice falling. May you practice falling May you breathe. Know that God is with you, even in the falls and hitting the mat, the ground. And may the Holy Spirit and the good guidance of the Comforter help you rise back up again. And in 2 days of resurrection, I can't think of anything more beautiful and resilient than the God that rose back up again from a great fall on Good Friday, what looked like a fall. May your resilience and your spiritual formation be formed in part by a break falling. God be with you.